Well, good afternoon and welcome. Glad you could join us today. So let's jump right in and talk about iOS 26.3 settings. Yes, it's time to upgrade to iOS 26.3, and today we're going to talk about the settings you need to adjust on Go for Lunch for February 17th, 2026. Brought to you by GoFor Technology. I'm Roger Harmon, your host, and we are here to make your technology work for you. Well, it's analog to digital TV day. Remember when we had to buy those little boxes to convert our analog TVs to the new digital signals? That was a long time ago, and we've come so far. Now we're doing streaming and all sorts of interesting things. So remember analog to digital TV day. So when you first start iOS 26.3, you'll do a little onboarding with Apple. And first you'll have to select your Wi-Fi network. So you need to know your Wi-Fi password. And then you're going to get a welcome to iOS 26. They're going to talk a little about liquid glass, which we're going to talk about later. And then it's going to show you the new looks for app icons and new camera controls, access menu options with functions that fluidly morph, whatever that means. And then the search is easy to access in apps, and welcome to liquid glass. So you don't want to just install it and forget it. You want to customize it to make sure that it meets your needs. So we're going to start with privacy and security and location services, which is important because many apps request your location even when they don't really need it. So that can drain your battery and raise your privacy issues. So to adjust that, you go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Location Services, and then you review each app's settings. And now you have a choice of never, ask next time, or when I share, or while using the app, or always. So let's go do that and see what it looks like. So we're going to turn on our iPhone here and unlock it and show it to you. There we go. And as usual, the picture of the iPhone is on this side, and the direct connection to the computer is over here, which is a little easier to read. So we're going to go to get out of here, erase our search. Okay. So we're going to go to Privacy and Security right here, and Location Services, and then we're going to have Location Services turned on up here. And hi Bob. And then we're going to check and share my location, and you want to make sure that Find My iPhone is turned on. But you probably don't want to have share your location on unless you're doing it with family members, then that's certainly okay. And then you would go through each of these apps, and then you have the choice of never, next time, or when I share, or while using the app. And you can also turn off precise location if the app doesn't need that. Only Only the map app would need precise location. So that's the way that part works. So you want to limit always only to essential apps, and as we said, turn off precise location except for maps. So now we want to look at privacy and security and tracking transparency. So that's important because iOS 26.3 continues to empower you to control whether apps can track your activity across other apps and websites for advertising purposes. So you go to Settings, Privacy and Security. So that's where we are. And Tracking. And then you would say allow apps to request to track is enabled if you want to see the prompt. And then you review the list of apps to toggle off tracking for any app you don't want sharing your data. So back here to the iPhone. So here we are in privacy and security, and we're going to hit tracking right there. So you want to you decide whether you want to allow apps to ask whether they can track you or not. So if you just don't want to see that message, you can turn this one off. And then on apps, you have the choice of having them track you or not. In my case, August is a door lock. It needs to track me so it knows when I'm home and will unlock the door. So you go through all of these apps and decide. So again, it's only your map apps that need to track you probably. So battery health and usage, the background app refresh. It's important because apps refreshing in the background can consume significant battery even when you're not actively using them. So to do that, you go to Settings and General. And my iPhone is acting up here. And background refresh, and then you want to choose Wi-Fi or off instead of Wi-Fi and cellular on most apps. So let's go back here to our iPhone. Go into Settings, and we want to go to General, and we want to scroll down here to Background App Refresh. And so this is where you set whether you want it to happen on Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi and cellular. So again, we suggest you keep it on Wi-Fi. And then you decide which apps you want to have refresh in the background. So this Air Now is a air quality app. And so I like to be notified immediately if the air quality is bad. But you can see I have different settings here for different apps as we go down through there. So you want to toggle off the apps that really don't need to fetch new content constantly. Social media apps is a good example of where you can turn them off so that they don't update until you actually turn them on again. So let's take control of notifications, because an onslaught of notifications are distracting and can reduce your productivity. So you can take charge of what gets your attention. So to do that, you go to Settings, Notifications, and then you would go through each app and decide its notification style, whether it's the lock screen, notification banner, notification center or banners, and consider turning off notifications that are less important. And you could also decide which notifications you want to put in a scheduled summary for less urgent notifications. So back here at our iPhone. We'll go back here to General, and then we have notifications down here. So you can see you can have your choices here of whether it's a count or a stack or a list. And then your scheduled summary, you can schedule this whenever you want. My schedule is 7:30 in the morning and 6 o'clock at night. And I have show previews turned on when locked. And so you can go through here and discuss how you want your notifications. So some of them I want immediately. Well, actually, AOL I don't want immediately. So I'm going to turn that one off. And you can see different settings for different apps. So display and brightness, true tone and night shift, that's important because it optimizes your screen's appearance, and that can reduce eye strain, especially in varying light conditions. So to adjust that, you go to Settings, Display and Brightness, and the key actions there are true tone. You enable this to display for your display to automatically adapt to the color and intensity of ambient light. Night shift will schedule this feature to automatically shift your display colors to the warmer end of the spectrum at night, which can help you sleep. Okay, so let's go back to our iPhone. And we want to get out of notifications. Here we are in Settings, Display and Brightness. So you have, of course, the option here of having light or dark. So dark gives you a black background, light gives you a white background, and you can have it set to automatic. And now have it set up here for light until sunset, and then it goes dark. And now here's good old liquid glass. So here's the difference in liquid glass. So if you want to adjust your liquid glass, you can see here on clear, you can see here this kind of white in the background. You can see the transparency there. Well, when you turn on tinted, you can see that that transparency is almost gone. So it makes the icons easier to read. I kind of like the clear, so I'm going to leave it that way. It's kind of like the interface, user interface on the iPhone got a new fresh coat of paint. That's the way I look at it. Okay, while we're here, let's talk about text size. You can adjust your text size right here. You just use this little slider here at the bottom. But to remember, there we go. Remember, when you make your text really big, you have less screen real estate, so you have to scroll a lot to see things. So don't make that bigger than you really need. So I keep it down here because my eyes are pretty good. And here's your true tone. You want to turn that on. And then I have the night shift set to turn on at 8 o'clock at night until 7 in the morning. And then auto lock is something that if your phone is turning off too quickly, then you can adjust the auto lock. I keep it on 5 minutes for demonstrations. And so that is what we have here on display and brightness. And we're going to take this back here and get set for the next one, which is automatic updates. So Apple, in their infinite wisdom, has turned on automatic updates in both iOS 26 and macOS 26. In case you had them turned off, you have to go back into General, Software Update, Automatic Updates, and turn it off. And the reason we want to turn off automatic updates is because sometimes the those automatic updates have bugs, and they will cause you more harm than good. So we want to be in control of our updates. We want to check when an update comes out, search on the internet for problems with iOS 26 or whatever the version is, and then decide whether we want to update. You do want to leave on system files automatically install. Those are security updates, so you want those to go in automatically. So let's go back here to our iPhone, and we're going to go into General and Software Update, and then Automatic Updates. So you want to turn off Automatically Install. You can leave on Automatically Download. That'll just save you some time when you do install it, because it'll have already downloaded the file. And then here's where you want to keep on the automatic install for security updates and system updates. Okay, we'll get out of there. So privacy-focused browsing in Safari. It's important because it enhances your web browsing privacy, and it prevents websites from tracking you all across the internet. To adjust that, you go to Settings, Safari, and the actions there are Prevent Cross-Site Tracking, and you can also consider Hide IP address for increased privacy, and then you want to review your website tracking and camera and microphone access. So let's go back to our phone and go back to Settings. So the easiest way to do this is just to search for Safari, S-A-F-A, and you want Safari Apps right there. Okay, so we want to turn all these on. They're probably going to be on anyway. And then we go down here to Privacy and Security. So we want to turn on Prevent Cross-Site Tracking. And we also, of course, want to have Fraudulent Website Warning turned on, Not Secure Connection turned on, and Highlights turned on. And also you want to turn on Share Across Devices, so these settings will go over to your Mac. And so that is basically your settings right there. Face ID and passcode is an essential security setting. It's important because it's your primary defense against unauthorized access. So let's ensure that it's set up correctly and securely. So the way you adjust that is you go to Settings, Face ID and Passcode, and then you would ensure that your Face ID or your Touch ID in the case of an iPad or an older iPhone are set up and working reliably. It's recommended that you use a strong alphanumeric passcode. Many of us just use the 4 or 6 digit passcodes, but an alphanumeric is more secure. And then you want to review the Allow Access When Locked option and disable the unnecessary ones. And Control Center is one that you may want to disable from accessing from the lock screen. So let's go here to our phone, and we want to go to get rid of this search here. And we want to go to, let's see, where is it? Face ID, there it is. Face ID and passcode. And we got to put in our passcode. Okay, so you want to have all these turned on. iPhone unlock, iTunes and App Store unlock, contactless and payments, and password autofill. And then we have these other apps. So you can see most of these you're going to want to have turned on for Face ID. And then down here, you can set up an alternate appearance. Now, that's a good idea to do when you are traveling, for example. You should have your traveling companion have access to your phone in case something happens to you. They can get into necessary medical information and contact information. So that's a good idea to have that set up. And then you want to probably set up add glasses. And so you can set that up later. And have turned on Face ID with a mask. Now this require attention in Face ID is important to have that turned on because it allows a true depth camera to an additional level of security, verifying that, come on. Okay, so we want to go back to Face ID. There we go. And we have to do our passcode. Okay. As I was saying, require attention. So this basically requires that you're looking at your iPhone for Face ID to work. So if you're having a problem with Face ID, make sure that you are looking at your iPhone, and also make sure that you're kind of at an angle. So you don't want to have let me switch cameras here. You don't want to have the iPhone facing down. You want to have it slightly facing up for Face ID to work. So that's the it kind of has an angle down a little bit. Always nice to have an extra iPhone here for demonstration purposes. How about that? Okay, so that's that. So those are the 8 things that you need to set up for your iOS 26.3 settings. And of course that will work on your iPad and your iPhone. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe and ring that little bell so you'll be notified when we are on the air. So that brings us to questions. And if you have not put those in, go ahead and put those in. Any comments you have, do us a favor and share the GoFor Gazette with Apple users you know. And Zoom has been updated to 6.7.6. And tonight, the Tucson Macintosh user group is meeting. The Zoom link for that meeting, starting at 6 o'clock, is in the GoFor Gazette. Our guest speaker is David Ginsburg of iOS Today. Is it iOS? No, it's iOS. It'll come to me in a minute. He's going to talk about becoming a screenshot superstar. So you don't want to miss that. So 6 o'clock is our Ask Me Anything session where you can do just that. 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time is the general meeting with the program. So let's see here. Bob says macOS 26.03 just dropped. Will you be doing the same thing for macOS next week? Yes, I will. So I have been having a problem with macOS 26 in general, not just 0.3, but actually it started, I think it even started in macOS 18. Sometimes, it doesn't happen all the time, It usually happens when I turn on the um, test computer, my little Mac M1 I have over here on my right hand side. Um, After it's been asleep, the Wi-Fi does not work for about I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I turn Wi-Fi on and off. I turn I actually turn the computer on and off, and it just takes its sweet little time to make Wi-Fi work. So I don't know what that's all about. I'm going to try to. It doesn't happen once it's been on, and once it finds Wi-Fi, it keeps Wi-Fi. But when it has been off for a while, it seems to lose Wi-Fi. So I'm going to be exploring that this week and maybe call Apple and see if they have any idea why that's happening. But probably next week we will do Mac OS Tahoe 26.3, what to do to make sure it's set up properly, and maybe get into some of the features there. So good question, Bob. And Bob says, In Touch with iOS is the David Ginsburg podcast. So a good one to subscribe to and tune into each week. If you think of anything that you want to know about between now and next Tuesday at high noon for another Go for Lunch, my contact information is coming up shortly. You can call me or you can email me, and I will certainly respond. So have a great week and take care, and we'll see you next time.